Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. We're looking at the updated roadmap for Star Citizen Alpha 3.2 that's going to be released to a live build at the end of June 2018, as well as talking a bit more about what might make it into 3.2 potentially, what each of the features that we should have in a bit more detail, as there's been quite a lot of changes to the roadmap from week to week. This is the most accurate information I have from the 17th of April 2018. We're going to see with every patch balance changes, more missions, further iterations and improvements to current mechanics. Items may get moved forward, some might get moved back, so bear that in mind. There will be major releases every quarter, 3.2 coming in June, 3.3 in September, 3.4 in December, and we should carry that on into 2019. And minor patch fixes and hot fixes will be in between those releases where appropriate. So let's go through the current 3.2 roadmap and elaborate on the features as we come to them. Ships, so the Mustang series, the Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Omega and Delta, as well as the Avenger series, the Titan, the Stalker and the Warlock, are all getting reworked for 3.2. Expect some modelling and materials improvements to the Mustang series. The Avengers, however, are being made around 20% larger. Their internal space is much better. They may have some hardpoint changes too, but we don't 100% know yet. The Avenger is getting the ability to mount any appropriate sized gun on its nose as well. Some entirely new ships as well in 3.2. The Anvil Hurricane, the two-man turret-centric heavy fighter, the Aegis Eclipse stealth bomber, the Vandal Blade light fighter, which is also likely to be used as NPCs in Vandal Swarm, and the Origin 600i Luxury, the Explorer variant of that ship, will all be made flyable. Travel and group play, so they are improving the overall quantum travel experience with upgrades to graphics, audio and functionality. There is quantum linking as well, giving players the ability to group travel with their friends when making quantum jumps. Quantum linking also helps if you're interdicted. The whole group will be brought out of quantum travel. The system is going to be used in tandem with AI or player-created missions through the service beacons, so people hard to help will be linked to you when you jump. There is also improvements to the group system in general, with the ability to team up with friends to cooperate on jobs and missions, and integrated group chat features, making it easier to get into an instance and play with specific players much more regularly and reliably. Mining, so they're adding the major gameplay systems needed for players to extract minerals from a planet or asteroid. This should include scanning down of asteroids and ore, the extraction of the resources, then the transporting and selling of those materials. It's also likely that there will be mining focused missions and new commodities added as part of that mining kind of implementation. There are going to be various service beacon improvements moving forward, including new contract types, filters and interactions. AI characters will be able to interface with the system as well, so they'll be able to request help and provide assistance to others, and that gives a lot more mission content in the game, whether you get assisted by a player, a non-player character, whether or not you go and assist an NPC or not. Escort missions are also getting a focus. Pay other players to escort you to different locations with the service beacon system by integrating quantum linking and the new escort beacons. They're also going to improve combat assistance by allowing your hired guns to be more readily accompanying you. So all of that together kind of makes for a much better system. Economy Pass 3.2. So they're performing an overall polish pass on the economic systems, from commodities trading to item prices, to better improve the experience overall for players. Expect new commodities and that sort of stuff as well, with mining coming in, as I said. There's also going to be new item and shopping kiosks. So these kiosks are specifically to increase variation of available products, including ship items and weapons, not physically able to be displayed or even buy in stores currently. This was said to be the last hurdle to ship and weapon sales in the persistent universe with Alpha UEC. So the weapons and items are basically 100% confirmed for this feature. Expect ships as well, but when they are asked, are you going to have ship sales in 3.2? They do skirt around the issue a lot of the time. Basically, ship sales are unconfirmed, but likely in 3.2. There is no mechanical or technical reason to not have them in 3.2 as far as I'm aware. There are some new weapons as well you'll be able to purchase too. On the FPS, first-person shooter side, the R97 shotgun, which is actually currently available in 3.1.2 in Star Marine, but that's going to be available for players to buy and NPCs to use in the persistent universe. Also, the addition of the Gemini F55 light machine gun, the Clausen Warner Demeco light machine gun, and Castec Arms Scalpel Ballistic Sniper Rifle will all be making their way onto the FPS scene and purchasable in-game in 3.2. For ships, they're also adding the associated science and development distortion gun repeaters. Gear-wise, there is a revision to the light, medium, and heavy legacy armor sets for Marine and Outlaws, as well as a new clothing range styled for Port Olisar for use mainly by NPCs there. But players will also be able to purchase them in shops as well. Hopefully there's some cool stuff there. There should be quite a few items of clothing there. Items 2.0, specifically ship weapon systems and weapon updates, focusing on power allocation and item degradation. This will include functionality for ship components, allowing for weapons to overheat, misfire, and suffer critical failures based on factors like wear and tear or damage, as well as the ability to configure shield generators, power plants, weapons, and other systems to meaningfully affect ship performance. This may also add sub-components, allowing for upgrades and configuring and interaction with each system to a much higher degree. This will actually be a huge amount of new gameplay, whether or not they add subsystems, and it's going to affect how ships fly, how combat works, choices when it comes to customization to a huge degree. Arena Commander will play significantly more differently, and other consoles in ships for multi-crew play may have significantly more use and actually help the course of a battle as you have to allocate power, shields, man the weapons. There's going to be better turret gameplay. Other systems potentially may have to have their components swapped out on the fly if they do add the subsystems as well. AI subsumption improvements. FPS AI combat is getting looked at here. So this is going to be the first stage of getting combat AI into the persistent universe, and it will expand mission types by introducing the risk that AI could be waiting to ambush players on moons or in a Hulk drifting in space. It's the implementation of that FPS style combat AI behaviors and effectively, I suppose, what we would deem bots in the past, behaviors to allow for players to engage with enemy targets on the ground or in ships to add an action element to some of the missions. It's doubtful they're going to be in StarEngine for a while, but in the persistent universe, that's when we're going to start to see them in 3.2. Also, flight AI improvements, so they're going to be improving existing and developing new and deeper flight behaviors and characteristics for those AI pilots. That's not going to just include enemies to fight, but also going to be civilian craft and the way that they move around and the way they interact with things in the verse flying around, as well as security personalities too. They are working on more player and NPC functionality for manned turrets on vehicles. Expect to see improvements to turret gameplay in general, but this is also going to be turrets and weapons on ground vehicles too. Network bind culling, so this has been pushed back a lot, but is looking to be in 3.2. This aims to help improve performance in multiplayer by cutting down the number of entities that exist on clients. Entities too far from a player will be removed from the local client, and when the player moves or the server otherwise detects new entities entering the player's range, they will be added to the client. Because clients will only then consider updating entities that are near to them, the overall CPU load will be reduced and performance should improve. Though this is a much needed improvement, it will be more leveraged when object container and network entity streaming come online in 3.3 in September. But network bind culling is pegged for 3.2. I'm just saying that it's going to be a lot better in 3.3. General improvements, so ship persistent improvements. They're going to continue to improve the core system responsible for persisting ship records on the persistent universe. This system enables many features including persistent damage, ship variables, and ship consumables. General persistence with logging out in ships and logging back in where you logged out will improve from patch to patch as well. They are trying to do that with 3.1.2 that we currently have in our hands, so hopefully they will continue to push that in 3.2. The mobiGlass is also getting improved with visual presentation functionality and usability of its apps, focusing more on the vehicle and personal manager apps for 3.2. There's also ongoing performance improvements with specific quarterly goals to increase overall frame rates with all PC specs, so whether or not they're super high or low spec, whatever. There's going to be general optimization and engine improvements to increase stability and performance for players, both on server and client side. This includes continued transition of gameplay systems to Item 2.0 as well as investigations and resolution of possible memory leaks and performance spikes and all that sort of jazz. IFCS and Gravlev fixes. So it's not on the roadmap, but it was confirmed on Spectrum within the last couple of days that for 3.2, there are much needed improvements coming to the IFCS, the flight model mechanics, and the Gravlev, the hoverbike on surfaces tech. Basically, they're splitting them both into two parts: control logic and physics processing for greater optimization and stability, as well as fixing the raycasts for those grav lebs. So that should be there. You shouldn't have problems with bikes to as large a degree as we currently have, and the IFCS, we won't get ships wobbling in space as much as they are. Hopefully much better response times and that sort of jazz with core combat and ship flight too. So some other info and 3.2 potential additions. Alpha UEC and Alpha UEC purchases are going to be reset every major alpha patch, and they're most likely going to be reset every minor patch as well, to be honest. 3.2 is when we should see players' account UEC be their starting Alpha UEC each reset too. Hopefully, we'll be able to have the ability to melt those Voyage Direct purchases as well that we were expecting with 3.1. Salvage is the most likely large gameplay mechanic to come into the game after mining. So mining is going to be in 3.2. Potentially, salvage could make it into 3.2 if there is enough time. Also, guilds and associations have been talked about. They're going to be there to create member associations within the universe that give players different benefits. These will ultimately include bounty hunting guilds, merchants guilds, but there's also going to be member-based services themed to fit different player types. For example, United Wayfarers Club could provide repair and refuel assistance for pilots that are broken down in space at a cheaper kind of service level. This might make it into 3.2. They haven't talked much about it, but I can't see it on the roadmap after they talked about it, so potentially it could be being looked at. Expect EMPs and distortion weapons to see changes in both 3.2 and 3.3, with combinations of the Avenger Warlock rework, the Item System 2.0 warranting EMP and distortion damage to be a lot more relevant as a game mode mechanic. It's going to be getting a lot of work and balance, and potentially new effects and cool bits and bobs to it as well. Fuel and intake mechanics are also getting work at the moment, with multiple types of fuel coming online in the future. We may see fuel intakes be implemented more properly and updates to the boost and afterburners too, as well as fuel being expended much more while in atmosphere. The intention is that eventually use of your thrusters will expend fuel, and that can only be regenerated via intakes or refueling via another ship or cryastro or similar fuel station, but you'll be able to have stores of fuel on your ship, and you can have fuel of different types, but only one fuel can be used at any given time. So potentially we might see some of this in 3.2, not the different fuel types, but the use of fuel intakes in a much more appropriate manner. Snub and expanded docking. They are working on the multi-grid tech for 3.2 and 3.3. That's going to allow the docking of snubs, so like the P-52 to dock with the Constellation, the command module to dock off the Caterpillar, that sort of stuff. It's also going to be used for other forms of docking that aren't really just landing. It requires AI to help align and push you in place. The multi-grid tech also allows for ships to fully separate, allowing for the Endeavour and the Caterpillar, as I said, to separate and reconnect their bridges, but for ship parts to act independently when separated as well by this method or through damage. That's one of the main things that a multi-grid tech allows. So say you're in an Idris or in a Constellation or something, and it gets literally blown in half, those parts of the ship may have some functionality. We will also start to see ship-to-ship docking too. This is all most likely coming after 3.2, but it's worth mentioning just in case some of it makes it into 3.2 or they start to test it. Quantum interdiction will also be getting better and better each patch too. Eventually players will be able to equip quantum interdiction devices. Potentially, again, that could be in 3.2, though it's more likely to be in 3.3 now. And that's the current roadmap for 3.2 with some extra bits of information that I tagged on at the end as far as we know at the moment. Expect things to move around though. They do push things forward, they do move things back. Some of those features, there may be extra pieces on, some of them might not get fully finished, but with those 3.2 and those quarterly releases, they will release whatever they have on that live date at the end of June. So some stuff will be super polished, some stuff might not be so polished. There might be some extra hidden features as well in there, as I said. Every month we have a giveaway for Star Citizen. For this April, it's a massive salvage ship, the Aegis Reclaimer, provided by our featured app, MyRadar. MyRadar is a free weather app that also includes full-scale maps of the 3 moons of Crusader, including Yela, Sullen and Daymar. Users can scroll around the interactive maps and zoom in to the landscape to see the geography of those moons. My Radar is available in the US, Europe, Japan, South Korea, and coming this summer to Australia. It is a real-life weather app as well, so you can see the weather in your general area and in those countries too. It's available on iOS, Android, and Windows. Please check it out in the links below if you are interested. But to be in for a chance of that reclaimer, make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel and comment on any of my videos throughout April. Each video gives you another chance to win. Do you have any questions about Star Citizen, its development, gameplay mechanics, suggestions for videos, whatever? Chuck them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. A special thank you to my Patreons who allow me to create the amount of content I do. If you're interested in becoming one of them, please find the links to Patreon as well as everything else we discussed down below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really does help me, and I'll see you in the verse.